If you wanted to do this, you should have
Too
gone
bad
to
you
med
weren't
school.
smart enough for med school.
I can't
Why
say
wouldn't you
anything
just
you have to
become a
say
doctor?
because you're too lazy to go to med school. Nurse practitioners are cheating
You
the
could have
system.
made
Too lazy
You
to
didn't
go
have
to
what
med
it takes
school.
to make
Just
it
lazy.
anyway.
That's
I
what
was
you
not
are.
doing
Next time, go to med school.
All right, let's just calm down now. Dear medical people who are constantly flooding my comment section with rude comments about me being a nurse practitioner, friends, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. Is it true that I did not go to medical school because I can in fact be quite lazy? Yeah, that part's true. But there are a few other reasons as well. Let's dive into them. Hello there. If you are new, I'm Liz. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I know, that's right, nurse practitioner, not a physician. Much to the rage of the many, many people on the internet who constantly comment about the fact that I'm a nurse practitioner, not a physician. But contrary to the multitudes of people who insist that I chose this career because I couldn't hack it in med school, I actually chose to be a nurse practitioner because that's what I wanted to be. I'm going to tell you all the reasons today that I ultimately chose not to be a physician. And if you have absolutely no need for backstories, you just want straight to the facts, you can skip to the timestamp in the description where we will go straight to the exact list. But if you want a very short and intriguing backstory to this whole decision, let me tell you about how I spent many, many years of my life and education planning on going to, you guessed it, med school. So back in ye olden times, I was a pre-med in college with grand plans to be the best pediatrician that Delaware had ever seen. That was until I shadowed a pediatric resident who in hindsight was probably just having like a really horrible day because residency it's horrible. More on that later. And she spent most of the time that I was with her crying and saying that becoming the doctor was the worst choice of her life and I should run now. In retrospect, she was an intern, a first-year resident, and why they would have me shadow an intern who was only a few months into her career, and they're usually so overwhelmed because everything's so new and they're so overworked and overwhelmed, like why you would have me shadow that person is beyond me. But she scared the crap out of me, and I immediately went and changed my major after that because even though I went into that experience super duper confident of my life plan, I was gonna go to med school, 6 hours of horror stories later, I was not going to end up like that girl. It was that bad. I was still interested in healthcare, so I switched to the only other medical career that I knew of because past Liz had a very, very narrow idea of what healthcare was, and I decided that perhaps nursing would be a better fit because surely that would be less stressful. At least that is what this intern had said, who I apparently now trusted with the rest of my life. It must have been an impactful moment. Also, I was familiar with nursing because my mom was one, so against my mother's advice, I dove headlong into a nursing career. Why did I believe a random stranger over my mother? I only can blame my underdeveloped 20-something brain, that's why. But it seemed like a good idea at the time, and off I went into nursing. So I was a nurse for a few years before I started to find like my groove kind of in what I like to do. I loved patient education. I hated how patients had no idea what was going on with their bodies. And I wanted to move more into the primary care space so that I could educate people about what chronic conditions were and what they could do to improve their health before they landed in the hospital with me having like their toes chopped off. So I had three choices. I could go to med school, which I had now met plenty of physicians who were much happier than that resident, so I wasn't like totally disqualifying that, or I could go to PA school, or I could go to NP school. I have a whole video on why I picked NP over PA, so you can go watch that after this, but it eventually came down to med school versus NP school, and the following reasons are why I decided not to go with med school. First, the price. Oh my gosh, the price. According to the Association of American Medical Colleges, the average medical student graduating in 2021 had about $200,000 worth of debt for med school alone, not counting undergrad or loans for like living expenses or loans for flying all over the country for like residency interviews and all of that jazz. On this scale, public schools are going to be usually a little bit cheaper. Private schools can be much, much more expensive, but dang, $200K is a lot of money. For comparison, my nurse practitioner school, which I went to like an mostly on-campus program and like I considered it legit, it was $30,000. Obviously, those two programs aren't like comparable, right? Because they're very different, but $200,000, that's a lot. How much of a lot? Well, when you go to repay it, it comes out to about $2,300 a month if you are doing like a 10-year loan repayment and you have about a 7% interest rate. And perhaps you are thinking, well, Liz, that's fine. Doctors make bank, right? Well, I do want to discuss that, but while we are on the topic, I'm going to have you stop by patient registration really quick and chat with billing Liz. She has a message for you. I will see you soon, and good luck. Oh, yeah, that's a big number. Oh, hi. I'm Liz from the billing department, and today I have a brief message from an affiliate partner because just like healthcare is a business, so is YouTube. I know, I don't like it either, but I do like Lecturio, so let me tell you about them real quick. Lecturio is an online learning platform for medical, nursing, nurse practitioner, and PA students. It's basically YouTube meets Quizlet for all the topics you cover in your program. They have thousands and thousands of videos on all the topics you'll learn about in school, taught by experts in their field, in videos that are under 12 minutes that you can also watch on 2x speed if you are an overachiever and are short on time. It combines these lectures with quizzes that automatically adjust for what you know and what you don't know. It has review pages for right before you walk into that clinical room in school and you're like, I don't know what's going on here, let me look it up real quick. And it has practice exams for you to set up that look exactly like the test you'll be taking in class because you decide what they look like. Oh, and you don't even have to stress about how to plan all of this out because the study planner will give you the daily tasks based on your topic due dates. So all you have to do is show up in the platform, watch the videos, take the quizzes recommended to you, and that's it. You're studying for the day. It's available on an app or on the desktop. I like the app because you can download all of the episodes and listen to them like a podcast while you're out driving, walking your dog, or gardening. But it can pretty much go anywhere with you and is everything I wish I would have if I ever went to nursing or NP school. Now, full disclosure, YouTube Liz she does work for them because she did a sponsored post with them and became so obsessed with them that she shamelessly asked them for an actual job. But hopefully that shows you how cool she thinks it is, and it means we got to ask them for a really cool discount for you, which gets you the product at the lowest price they offer all year. So no need to wait for a sale, my friends. If you would like to check it out and learn a little bit more, click the link in the bio or feel free to ask me questions in the comments. And since you listened to my little spiel here, I can now release you back to the rest of the video. Consider this your copay for the visit. Thank you so much and come again, okay? Yep, come again. Hello again. Gotta love the billing department. Anyways, we know physicians graduate with a heck of a lot of bills themselves, but don't they make bank? Eventually, many physicians do make good money, yes, but this really depends on what specialty you go into and how much of your soul you are willing to sell to prioritize profits over patients. And I was planning on going into family med, which is like the lowest paying specialty, even though it's one of the most soul sucking, so make that make sense. Clearly I have feelings. Anyways, let's say you are in a really high paying specialty. Physicians don't pop out of med school making a ton of money because they first must go through residency, which gives them their specialty training. You graduate from medical school as a generalist, and then you hone your skills in residency. All physicians in the United States must do a residency to practice, and those usually last like 3 to 4 years. And then if you want to do something even more specialized, you have to do a fellowship after that, and that's another like at least 2 or 3 years. And these residencies, they pay like crap. As a nurse, I was making 20 to 30 grand more a year than the residents I worked alongside. And I worked 36 hours a week and they worked 80. So that sucks. The average annual salary for a first-year resident in the United States is $57,865 a year, which is $4,800 a month before tax. With tax taken out, that's like $3,750 a month. And then we need to subtract your student loans of $2,300 a month, and you have $1,450 to pay rent, food, car, and heaven forbid you have daycare, because I don't know how you would afford that. So don't get me wrong, this is not like a terrible salary in a vacuum, right? But when you're working 80 hours every week and you have student loan issues where you owe like 200 grand, that $15 an hour you make as a resident after you've spent years of your life already learning this stuff, that's pretty insulting. Especially when you consider that residents are working insane hours, nights, weekends, holidays, literally you get like 2 or 4 days off a month a lot of the time. And in terms of where they work, they get shuffled around to different units so they get exposed to everything. But it's like just when you get your feet under you, you go into another rotation and you have so many patients that you're supposed to be managing. You don't have necessarily a bunch of background knowledge on this population because you just came into this whole zone. And many are living in a new city away from their family and friends because that's where they got a residency. Because the way residency works is it's kind of like a sorority. As a medical student, in your, I think like late 3rd year, you start applying for residency positions in the specialty that you would like to dedicate the rest of your career to, which this in itself was kind of a pain point for me because while I knew I wanted family medicine, I had no idea if the dreams of 28-year-old Liz would be the dreams of 48-year-old Liz. And in medicine, you have to go back through a whole residency program to like re-specialize if you want to change your mind. Whereas with nurse practitioner careers, you can move around a bit as long as you're still within that setting and specialty population that you trained for initially. So for me, as a family nurse practitioner, I can work in most outpatient settings and see people of all ages, womb to tomb. The commitment scared me with the physician path here. No lies, the ADHD doesn't like commitment, and it worried me. Anyway, back to residency. Med students then go fly all over the country interviewing for residency spots. You usually attend when you go to these like a dinner, interviews, you meet some of the people in the residency, you schmooze and you ask questions, they ask you questions. At least that's what my YouTube research has taught me. I watch a lot of like medical school residency vlogs, in case you can't tell. And then you rank your favorite schools and they rank you. And if you match up and you both seem to like each other, the match computer algorithm system pairs you up and bam, you have a job. But it's not like you get to specifically pick where you want to live because maybe you had to rank programs that you didn't absolutely love, but you thought you had a better chance of getting into, and you really do need a job after all. So even if it's not like the best fit, at least it's something. And this just scared me because I was married, I was settled, I owned a house, I planned on having children soon. I didn't want to just like uproot my whole family to go to a random place in the country for a job that I was getting paid crap for working 80 hours a week so that my husband would be forced to do everything, raising our children and all that without help from my family or my friends. That just it wasn't sounding super appealing. And that's all if you get a job in a residency program because, I thought residency sounded awful, but then I found out that according to the American Medical Association, in 2021, about 7% of the US allopathic, which is the MD med school graduates, did not match into a residency program, and 10% of DO med students did not match into a residency program. And that, remember, is bad because 1, you owe $200,000 for this degree you just got, and 2, you cannot get a job as a physician because you need to complete a residency to do that. So what are your options here if you don't get in? Well, you can apply for the Supplemental Offer and Acceptance Program, or the SOAP program. In 2021, there were 14,092 applicants to the SOAP program. Now, a lot of different people can apply for this program. So the AMA reports that 4,516 of those graduates were from a US medical school. And of the 14,000 applicants, 1,773 positions were filled. That's it. So that's still like lots and lots of thousands of med students that graduated but did not get into residency. So they had all the debt and none of the job. And that sounds awful. Just bad. That is not a small amount of people. And I sure as heck did not want to be one of those people who put in all that work to be out of a job. And I'm very well aware that I just listed off a ton of negatives about the med school physician route, and I am well aware that there is a lot of positives to going that route as well. Like, you get a much more detailed and comprehensive learning experience, and I completely get that. The brutal residency schedule does give you a ton of time to learn, and that knowledge helps you be an expert in your field once you graduate from residency and gives you a very well-rounded education. And I am so incredibly glad that people are willing to put in that time and effort to become experts in medicine. We need physicians. Do I think med school and residency can use quite a few changes? Obviously, but I do see the value in having super hardcore learning experiences that produce really specialized and knowledgeable providers. So next, I kind of had to just sit down with myself and ask the question, do I want to be the absolute expert here? And I realized, no. I didn't really want to be the internal medicine, I can handle anything thrown my way investigator, at least not right out of the gate from graduation. I wanted to be more of the, let me handle more of the clear-cut stuff and do the basic primary care, the chronic disease management, the acute care of like, not the crazy stuff, right? I like the team-based approach. And for me, I have no problem admitting something is beyond my scope, and being the absolute expert, just, it's not my goal. So all the training really wasn't something that seemed like worth it to me, because I felt I could be a really valuable member of the healthcare team by tackling some of the more run-of-the-mill things as a nurse practitioner, where I could really focus on like patient education and prevention, which is what I love. And now I know I've probably angered like all the nurse practitioners and made them mad by implying that nurse practitioners can't be experts. And I'm not saying they can't one day be experts, but out of the gate from school, no, we're not. And maybe that's a whole video for a different day. Let me know down in the comments if you want that one. But I feel like a huge issue with the NP versus physician war is that nurse practitioners try to make themselves equal to physicians, and we're not. We're different, and that's okay. As a primary care NP, I could do about 70 to 80% of the primary care things really, really well. And that other 20 to 30% I needed help with. And the physician I worked with loved the more complicated stuff. She was like the investigator. She loved the internal med, like complicated, hardcore stuff. And it worked super duper well when we worked together. Collaboration over competition is the path forward here, I hope, and that's my mini soapbox that I will now step off of and touch on the last few reasons that I decided to go against medical school for myself. So I knew I wanted primary care, right? So I asked all the primary care office-based physicians I came in contact with about their schedule, their life, their balance, their free time, and I scoured the internet spaces for kind of the same information, trying to figure out if this was something that I could do basically part-time, because while healthcare is interesting to me, it is not my all-consuming passion. I did not want my job to be my life. I wanted it to support my life, my hobbies, my interests, and my family. And the resounding response seemed to be, you need to usually work full-time to help pay off the crazy student loans, and the hours are pretty long. Most people working in primary care seem to work like a 50-plus hour work week because they were taking home charts or staying late to pick up like phone calls, paperwork, lab review, and all of that. Could I find a part-time job as a physician? For sure. There are lots of people who do that, but what implications would that have on my family and like student loans? And what did part-time even look like? Could I work like 2 or 3 days a week? Would that be a viable option? And again, I am sure people do it, but that didn't seem like the norm. And people over and over again expressed to me when I asked how they did want to cut their hours, and their institutions like weren't really letting them, and things were just like the hours were expanding even though they cut back, and they were worried about their student loan repayments, and it seemed like a lot. And that kind of put the nail in the I don't want to go to med school, I don't think, coffin. I was okay with not being the end-all be-all expert. I wanted to work part-time and not be bound to overwhelming debt. I didn't want to risk not getting a job. And then even if I did, getting sent to like a random city and state away from my support system, I wanted to be home with my kids when they were little and not working like 80-plus hour weeks as a resident. And I wanted to be able to potentially change my mind in the future. So I decided to pursue the nurse practitioner route, where I could be really, really great at the things that I was trained to do and allow others with expertise to step in when needed. I could change my mind and maybe go try palliative care or cardiology one day. I could work 1 to 2 days a week because I was able to pay for school out of pocket, since my employer actually paid half of my education and I picked up the rest because I was still working. As a nurse practitioner, I can't do everything a physician can do, but I don't want to. So I didn't fail to get into med school. I didn't decide not to apply because I was scared or because I didn't think I could make it. I didn't become a nurse practitioner as a backup option. I didn't become a nurse practitioner because I wanted to cheat the system or take a shortcut. I made a very conscious decision that I wanted to take the path of becoming a nurse practitioner because it was going to be the best fit for me. And if you are weighing a decision like this, I hope you feel confident to make whatever decision is best for you, regardless of what all the people of the internet are saying to you or your family and friends. They can be just as bad. Med school and becoming a physician is a great choice for many, but that is not a path for everyone. And I just wish there was like less judgment around that. Just because people make choices that are different than others and different than the ones that you made It doesn't mean they're wrong, and this goes both ways. For every physician out there that poo-poos NPs, there are NPs out there saying that physicians don't care about patients as a whole and are too disease-focused. And let's just stop the toxic, well, you suck more argument, okay? Our healthcare system is a burning dumpster fire of toxic sludge, and we need to join together to defeat the evil healthcare admins and insurance companies, okay? So let's stop sending our rage at each other and instead, send it that way at them and see if we can actually fix things, okay? I hope this gave you a better idea of why some people may choose to become a nurse practitioner instead of a physician, and maybe gave you a few things to consider if you are making the choice as well. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts down below on how you made this choice, if you've been there, or what you love about your chosen profession if you work within the medical field, so that we get some further insight for people, to just go explore, or any field. Doesn't have to be medical field. I so appreciate you being here and spending some of your precious moments today with me. Remember that no matter what letters come after your name, you are more than enough, you are not alone, and you, my friends, can do hard things. See you next time. Bye.